Hi everyone, welcome back to MBA Talks with Career 360. Today we have someone really special with us. We have Vishal with us, who is currently pursuing his MBA from ISB. He's here to share all about his journey and how he made it to ISB. Welcome, Vishal.
Hi everyone, I'm Vishal Jha. I'm currently pursuing my MBA from ISB. Prior to this, I have worked for a couple of years at Meesho as an associate product manager. Before that, I have also worked for 3 years in consulting at a firm called Credence. I have completed my mechanical engineering from NIT Jamshedpur, and I originally come from Darbhanga, Bihar.
Okay, that's so nice. So you were an engineering graduate, and then you did consulting, and then
Yes.
product management. Then why MBA? How did you switch your path to management?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So MBA has been something which I had thought a couple of times when I was doing my undergrad also, and then while working also few times I thought about it, but I did not have a very good reason to pursue it, so I never tried. But last year I felt that now, given I have spent close to 4.5 years in this industry, I felt that there were certainly some areas where I could strengthen my skills, which closely resonated with MBA as a degree, right? So I felt that if I could complete an MBA, I can be better in certain skills, which we can talk about in later part of the video. And apart from that, as a growth goal, so MBA was a very good platform for me to showcase what I'm doing, but in a better way. So these reasons combined, I decided to go for it.
Okay. So when you decided to pursue MBA, then what all entrance exam did you decided to give?
Sure. So first thing that when I decided I wanted to do an MBA, then I had to first choose between 3 broad buckets, right? Either I could go for a 2-year traditional IIM MBA in India, or I could choose ISB, which is probably the only 1-year MBA in India, or IIMs have the PGPX courses, and the third bucket is going abroad. Right now, I did not want to spend 2 years because I was already a working professional, and letting go of 2 years was a big opportunity cost for me. And I also did not want to go outside India because I wanted to work in India, and I like the Indian industry in general. Right? So then ISB seemed like the most suited choice. Now, with that thought in mind, I had a choice of giving either GMAT or GRE. But GMAT is what suited me more. So I prepared for GMAT, gave 2 attempts of GMAT, then the interview process and everything.
Okay, that's great. So, like exactly when did you start your preparation for GMAT?
Yeah, so I actually started pretty early. Right? So ISB admission process, there are 3 rounds, and first round, usually the deadline for first round is around September. But I started my preparation in January itself. So I took close to 3 to 4 months for my GMAT preparation. I gave my first GMAT attempt in April, which my score was not completely satisfactory for me. So I gave one more attempt in May, and that score is what I accepted.
So what was it that you did different in the second time that you think that you cracked it?
Sure. So in my 4 months of preparation, right? So apart from studying the concepts and going through videos, etc., I also was giving a lot of mocks. It's the official GMAT mocks. And there I was scoring in a very high range, like 740 to 760 range. Right? But when I gave the GMAT for the first time, it was an actual center-based GMAT. There I scored only 710. So I felt that maybe my day was off and I was not able to perform at my optimum level. So then in that 1 extra month, I actually did not do a lot of basics again. I just did some practice. I solved some RC passages. I basically did, I think, one more mock in between. And the second attempt was basically to just let go of the thought that maybe it was luck based. So second attempt, I got a 720. And then I was like, this is a good enough score. And I was satisfied at that level.
Okay. And from all the sections in GMAT, which was it that you found difficult?
Verbal was difficult for me. So being an engineer, I think that's a common which a lot of people will tell you. So for quant, the first mock that I gave there itself, I got a score of, I think, 48, and eventually also I ended up getting 50. So there was no much room of improvement in quant, but verbal was the weakest for me. And I think in the 4 months, my primary strategy was also to spend a most amount of my time on verbal while practicing a little bit of quant.
Okay. What was the source material that you were using for practicing?
Sure. So I also was confused that what exactly materials to go for since there are so many options. But in the end, what worked for me was all the GMAT official books. So the OG guides, then verbal quant wise guides, and then some advanced books also from GMAT. So these were all the books and questions basically. And for concepts, I refer to a YouTube channel called GMAT Ninja. So they have really good series of videos, and especially for verbal, I followed their way of strategizing questions, and it really helped me.
Okay. So for students who would start their preparation for GMAT right now, what is that one piece of advice that you would want to share with them?
Sure. And I think still my advice would be relevant, although the GMAT has now changed to the focus edition. But one thing about GMAT exam is that there's very little amount of information that you need to learn. It's not a test of your knowledge per se. It's a test of your reasoning. Even the verbal of GMAT is very much like maths, if you think about it. So I think practice is absolutely necessary for GMAT, and regular practice, right? So even if you take 3 months time frame, you have to solve an RC passage every single day. That is what even I did. One RC question every single day, and also some good reading sources if you are especially weak in RC. And Indian newspaper, Indian magazines probably don't go that level. So you have to refer to something like an Economist or a New York Times. Those have that GMAT level of English. So if you have to get into habit of reading really long passages and making sense of it, and you also have to go outside your comfort zone. For example, an engineer will usually be okay reading a lot of science articles, but will not be okay when we have to deal with, say, a legal article or a policy article or something, a literature article. So you have to go outside your comfort zone and read things which you don't usually read. This is only for reading. For the critical reasoning, which I think still exists, you have to again practice a lot. This is one section where you make the most amount of mistakes, because all the options will look like correct option, but there are strategies, but again, you don't have to learn strategies. You have to just understand how things are working. I don't think there is sentence correction anymore, so you can skip that. Quant, it depends totally on what the level of that individual is. If you are already good at it, like I was, all you need to do is stay in touch, keep solving 10, 15, 20 questions every day. And that way you can reduce your errors. Because quant, at least what I felt was, none of the questions came where I did not know how to solve it. It's just that due to time pressure, you'll end up making a lot of mistakes. So reducing that mistakes is the main thing in quants. Verbal, it's all about practice.
Okay, so GMAT has changed now to focus edition.
Yeah.
Do you think that change is helpful to students, or has it become more difficult?
Yeah, very good question. So basis my limited knowledge of focus edition, I feel it will help, because sentence correction was one section which required a lot of time, right? You had to learn a lot of grammar rules. It was in a way test of knowledge also, which has now gone away. So now everything on the GMAT, there is nothing to learn. There is no section where you have to go ahead and learn something. I think it will be helpful for someone who really believe in getting onto the concepts. Plus, I also think some of the sections have been removed. Like I think some AWA is now removed. So that also, I don't think it was useful, because none of the schools were looking at the scores, but you still have to give some time to prepare for it. That's also good. Now you have focus edition as it says focus. So you can now really look at the sections which really matter.
Yeah. Also, let's not talk about the number of mocks. So do you think, is there any apt number of mocks that one can give before the final attempt?
Yeah, so GMAT officially offers 6 mocks.
Yeah.
2 free and 4 paid, if I'm not wrong. Right, so those 6 are absolutely mandatory. And the way I recommend anyone to space it is, the first free mock you should be taking before even you start your preparation. And at that point, I would actually recommend people to take both GMAT and GRE mocks. Since they are free, you can go ahead and see which one suits you more. So first one is just for benchmarking. Then the rest 5 mocks, actually rest 4 mocks, it should be during your preparation journey. You can set a fixed cadence for it. If you're keeping a window of 2 months, you can do it every 15 days. You have to absolutely give that. And the last mock you can save for just before the exam. This is absolutely mandatory. You should do it. Apart from this, I really don't trust a lot of mocks from other platforms, but you can give them just for practice. But I think GMAT mocks are the closest, because they use the exact same algorithm of the exam. So you should definitely go for all the official mocks.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier in the interview that how you were a working professional, and then you felt like there were certain skills that were lacking. So could you just elaborate on that, on what was it that specifically MBA offered you?
So one thing is, when you're working, right, you obviously learn at a very fast pace. I was working, both my work experience was at startups. So the rate of growth there also is very, very high. But the way you learn things there is very much on the go, on the job training. So you will, for example, if I take the example of, say, A/B testing in product management, you end up doing A/B testing on a very regular basis. You apply, but in a lot of ways, you will not really know what exactly is happening there. You will end up using a lot of formulas which maybe your seniors gave you. You put in some numbers, you get some output, show it, but you have not formally learned those things. So one was and MBA gives you a very wide horizon of learning, right? So it's finance, it's strategy, it's economics, statistics, it covers everything. So one thing was, I felt that maybe I can expand my learning to get those. Some of the things I knew from my engineering, statistics I knew, but I did not know economics. I've never read it. But it's really, really important, because at workplace you see people talking about those concepts and getting those concepts in action. But that was one, right? So that one skill gap. Second, I felt definitely the way MBA helps you focus beyond your day-to-day work. So MBA teaches you how to have a wider view or wider perspective of things. In a job, whereas you are very much focused on that one piece of task that you are doing. So I wanted to have take a moment of a year to reflect and get that perspective where I can look at concepts from, or topics from, a very wider lens. That was one, mainly in terms of skill gap. And then of course there's network. Yeah.
Okay. So see, why I asked you this question is because right now there is alternate debate around the degree of MBA and whether it's a relevant degree anymore or not. So with startup culture booming in India, do you think it is still relevant?
Yeah, even to be honest, I'll tell you, before coming to the campus, my point of view was also that MBA is not supposed to give you a lot of learning. It is supposed to give you networking, it's supposed to give you exposure, working in teams, etc. But after coming to, especially I can vouch this for ISB, when you sit in the classrooms and when you see the professors teaching, they just take every single concept, every single subject to a whole new level. They'll basically give you a different way of thinking about things which you have been doing for your past years, but you never thought about it in a different way. So I think I would disagree here that yes, there are alternatives to MBA. Of course, in today's world, MBA does not really stop someone from growing. If you have not done an MBA, it's not that you cannot grow. You can still grow. But the kind of views that an MBA can give you, the kind of experiences an MBA gives you, especially in classroom, now that COVID is over, we all are actually sitting in classrooms. We all are talking to professors, and we are learning those concepts in a live space. I don't think anything can come close to that.
Since you mentioned ISB campus, tell me about the first day when you entered the ISB campus and what was the day like?
Sure. So let me talk about the first day or the first week first, then I'll talk a bit about the campus. So in ISB, the first week when you enter is called the orientation week, or we also call it the O week. So it's basically supposed to be very hectic. It is designed to be very hectic. It's supposed to give you an idea of what your next 1 year at ISB will look like. So first day was registration. Everything was fine, smooth. But second day onwards, it used to be sessions from 9 in the morning till 11 in the night. So you would be, throughout the day, you would be sitting with some of the best faculties. You would be getting their point of views on topics like innovation, like entrepreneurship, like finance and everything, as well as you will have external speakers come in. So we had some of the great alums and other external speakers come in. We had Ankur Wadiku come in. We had Rohit Kapoor come in. So a lot of very famous alums in that way will come in and share their experiences with us. And there was also a lot of activities. So we were supposed to participate in, and very fun activities, not a lot of pressure, but there was activity on memes, there was activity on sports, there was activity on dance, music, everything was there. Right? So that was O week in general. If I talk about ISB campus, right, both the campuses. So basically, ISB has great infrastructure. And when I say that, it doesn't only mean the building or the hostels or student villages, we call it here. They are of course great, but apart from that, the kind of digital infra that it provides is also great. For example, it gives you access to all the major journals, magazines, subscriptions. It gives you access to like finance terminals, which you won't get otherwise. So it gives you everything that you need, and the amount of resources is just amazing. Like, I still don't know half of it, and we keep exploring. And the ISB also one of those campuses that supports you a lot. So it works very much like a corporate company per se. There are departments for everything, and you can just go ahead and ask about anything that you need, and everything is available on the campus.
Okay, that's great. So let's talk about little bit about the academic curriculum. How is it that the curriculum over there is different from any other B schools, and what is it that you found very fascinating in the curriculum?
Yeah, so biggest difference, of course, it's 2 years versus 1 year, right? So a lot of people think that if we are going for 1 year MBA, are we learning less? So the fact there is no, because the contact hours or the hours that a faculty is supposed to teach any student is exactly same for ISB versus any IM. It's just that we have longer sessions, and we have the same thing packed into 1 year. So for example, we have every lecture that we have is for 2 hours, and we have 10 lectures in every course. And we also have minimum 33, we need to have minimum 33 courses to pass, right? We can have more. So learning is exactly same, but yes, of course, it's much more fast paced. So ISB entire year is divided in 8 terms, and each term is for roughly 6 weeks.
Okay.
Right? So here, literally every third week, you would be giving an exam. But the way it's designed is, again, it's not supposed to be very hectic, in a way that still it gives room for you to pursue anything which you're interested in. Right? Yeah.
Okay. So, like you mentioned about the academic curriculum,
Mm.
and once you were, done with your GMAT preparation and you gave the exam and you had your score, how was it that you started preparing for your interviews for the school, for the B school?
Right. So in fact, even before interview, so for ISB, there's a lot of emphasis and a lot of importance of the essays that you write. And so I was done with my GMAT scores by May. So I had roughly 3 months before I can submit my application. So for ISB, you have to write 3 essays. Our year, there was 3 essays. It might change, but there were 2 mandatory and 1 optional essay. One was on goals, one was on your success and failures, and one was on your strengths and weaknesses. Now, they may seem very easy, but they take a lot of time for you to answer. Especially the goals essay, that took me a lot of time, because ISB as a school focuses a lot on what you want to achieve, what is your story, while they admit you, because they want to bring the diversity into the class, where people from different walks of life come together and share their stories. Right? So in some way, what you write in your essays also goes into your interview preparation. They are not very different. But broadly, what I did was, my strategy was that while writing essays, I did not pick a consultant per se, but I had a lot of alums in my network. So where I was working in my own team, there were like 2 ISB grads, and some from my college graduates who had already gone through ISB, or you can look for people on LinkedIn. So I had 4 to 5 people who were actively helping me. So what I did was, I would think about it, write different versions of the essay, give them to review, and they would just help me. That is it making sense or not making sense? So that process itself took me around a month. And while writing those essays, I already had a lot of questions clear in my mind, that why I want to do MBA, why I want to go for ISB, why not this. All of these questions were answered already in my mind. So for interview, it was basically just reconciling everything together. The interview at ISB is a very conversational interview. So they will not usually talk about subject matter per se. They'll mostly be focusing either on your past experience, or your goals, or your general way of thinking. And so all I did was, I sat through and wrote down everything which I have done at every stage of my life, during school, during college, during work. I tried to answer all of these questions: why MBA, why ASB, why now, right? And how will I add value to the school? All of these questions I started to answer, and I also vetted them against some of my seniors. I asked one of my senior to take a mock interview of mine a couple of days before the interview. So that also helped a lot.
Oh. So, was there any question on your essays during the interview process?
Not exactly pointing to the essay, but there were questions that overarched the theme. So for example, I think there was a question so ISB, the interview is taken by alums. It's not the professors or so alums themselves take it. So there were questions around, say, what kind of leadership skills you have shown, be it at college or be it during your work. These are also some of the things which you write in your essays. But yeah, it was not like they were reading the essay and asking question. They
So,
had read it before coming for the
so
interview.
what were the questions that they were generally asking you?
Yeah, so actually I have a list. I can tell you the broad questions which they asked
That's
me.
great.
Right, for everyone's reference. So first of all, they basically, like 70% of my questions were around my work experience, right? So, and that too around my recent work experience. So first of all, they read through the profile which I had written, and for the work experience, you write 5 lines about what you do and what are your key achievements. So they were fascinated by the project or the key thing which I was working on, and they had questions on it. So they went very deep on it. They were asking me questions around how did you achieve this? How did you think about doing this? And then they had questions around what is your exact role? Is it an individual contributor role or is it a team manager role? If you have you ever managed people in the past, and what were somewhere that there was a question around, do you face tough situations at work or conflicts at work? How do you resolve it? Right. And then they also asked me about my goals, right? So they basically gave me that, suppose you're already an APM. If you get promoted to PM tomorrow, will you still want to do an MBA?
Yeah.
Right? So basically they were trying to gauge my quality of work experience as well as, again, why MBA. That becomes very, very important.
Okay. So, since you have a work experience in consulting, and right now it seems to be the buzzword. So, what do you think is the difference between, like, you were a consultant in a startup, and then there are also boutique firms like MBBs. So, is there any difference in the job or the profile and the kind of work that you guys do?
Yeah, so let me try to break it down. Again,
Sure.
as you said, consulting is a buzzword. So everyone, there are a lot of different types of consultants,
Yeah,
first of
sure.
all. So even area-wise, functionality-wise, there can be different consultants. For example, I was not a management consultant.
Okay.
When you say consulting in general, it naturally refers to management consulting, what MBBs or a Kearney or an Accenture consulting would do. But I was into analytics consulting. So Tredence is a firm which basically similar to ZS, Mu Sigma, and this league of firms, which basically help other companies, mostly Fortune 500 companies, with their analytics related problems. The work can be related to opportunity identification. It can be related to giving them a model, or it can be building it out for them as well. So work there varies a lot, but it's very much related to data. Right? But when you say a management consultant in an MBB, etc., it's basically around a lot of decision making for them. For example, should you acquire this company? Should you open a new branch in X country? Should you close this division within the company? Should you restructure the company? All of these decisions are mostly taken. There are other consulting. There is financial consulting. There is consulting in policy. There is technology consulting. So yeah.
Okay.
There are many.
So you also had a work experience in product management.
Yes.
You had a good work experience in that. So, according to you, what is few prerequisites that one should have to pursue product management?
Right. Uh, Again, that goes down to two levels, right? So one is prerequisites to get a job in product management will be slightly different than prerequisites to, say, excel at a product management job. So I'll answer both of them one by one, right? So first of all, what skills you need to become a product manager? So basically, a product manager needs to balance between 3 or 4 things. One, he or she needs to understand technology, right? So doesn't mean that you have to code. You might have to code in some of the roles, but in all of the roles, at least you should know what technology you're working on, because mostly when we say product management, we mean digital product management. So we should know things like how a website works, how an app works. You don't have to be from software development background. I was not. Right. Second is understanding of users, which basically means, especially when you are in B2C consulting. For example, if you are working for something like a Meesho, you have to have a deeper understanding of how people shop, or how people sell either side of things. And the third is, of course, stakeholder management, because a product manager is someone who interfaces between different teams. So between design, tech, business, user growth, and different teams, you would be trying to balance between all of them. But end of day, a product manager is owner of a feature or a portion of an app or a website. So you would be one who would be deciding what what goes where.
Okay.
In
So,
terms of interview, sorry, I did not complete that.
yeah.
If you want to get into product management and you are not from the field, so one, having some background, of course, helps. So either if you have background in, say, tech as a software engineer, or you have some background in, say, data. So what I did was I was working as a analytics consultant. So I joined as a product analyst. So analytics remained common. I just switched industry from consulting to product. And then I learned and grew as an APM.
All right, that's great. So, like you had a work ex before you did your MBA. A lot of students pursue their MBA as a fresher.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what is it that is more suitable when one wants to pursue an MBA?
Yeah, of course, there are pros and cons of both. So suppose when you are trying to do MBA as a fresher, right? By the way, you can't do that at ISB. You need minimum 2 years experience. You can get a deferred admission. I think it's called YLP or EEO. But you can't really start studying until you have 2 years experience. But let's take example of IMs. So if you enter with, say, 0 to 1 years of work experience, so there are some benefits of it. One is that you are coming in with a very fresh perspective. You do not have any biases. And second, you also have more of that learning energy with you, which may be difficult for someone who has already been working for a few years. That is one. And second, in terms of, so you're already in the flow of learning, giving exams, so life becomes a little bit easier for you. And for placement also, for those who are on the younger side, have better suitability in, say, something like a general management role, where companies would hire someone, put them across a range of different horizontals or verticals, and then let them decide what works out for them. Whereas when you are coming in with the experience, right, you have a different perks with you. So biggest one becomes you already have a credible profile built with you. Right? So this MBA is not like a profile building stage for you. Here you just sharpen your skills. Here you just get those network, get the right set of accolades, and you grow.
Okay.
So it becomes easy. For example, if you're coming from a PM background, if you want again a job in product management, it becomes very easy for you to get a short list to crack those interviews. And with the when you're coming in with some work experience, you also have a lot of perspectives which can help you contribute better. So for example, in ISB, a lot of our learning happens in a case setup where we would be reading some case and discussing it in class. So people coming from different backgrounds will have different perspectives, which they will share in the class. That can only come when you have actually worked. So there are pros and cons of both. I would just say do an MBA when you feel you're ready to do an MBA.
Okay, that's great. So, since you're right now studying in ISB, and people who would be preparing for GMAT and going to it in the future, what is it the three things that one can expect from an ISB campus?
Okay, so although I would leave some of the surprises, but few things which you can expect. So one, ISB is going to be hectic. Like it's not going to be easy. You will have classes, you will have activities, you will have position of responsibilities, you will have placement prep, and it's just 1 year, effectively 11 and a half months. Right? So placements start to happen 7 or 8 months into the course. There's no internship. So it is going to be hectic. That is one. Two, what you can expect is ISB has a great community. Right? So what will happen is once you get your admit, even before you enter the classroom, I got my admit 3 or 4 months before I was wrong. So even in those 3 to 4 months period, people already started bonding. There was WhatsApp groups, people were helping each other. We would even meet up. So we would do meetups in Bangalore. I was in Bangalore. People in different cities would do their own meetups. So ISB has a great culture where people would go out of the way to help you. Be it your classmates, be it your alums, be it the professors, or even the staff who was here. Everyone is extremely helpful. So even if it gets hard, you will always have people with you who will help you. So that is two. And third is that, ISB is a place where you can expect to let go of your, whatever you have perceptions built for you, because ISB is a place that changes the way you think if you let it change. Like you can go ahead and take courses which you have never studied in your life. You can go ahead and talk to people from completely different paths of life. And so basically, it's not a course where you will have a template learning that you enter as something, you read, you give exam, and you get out. It's a course where you will explore yourself.
That's it. So, before we end, how would you describe your journey so far, right from preparing for the exam and now making it to ISB? How would you just describe it?
Yes, thanks for asking that question, because I think this is something which everyone who is preparing, and I'm assuming it's May, a lot of people would be preparing for round one, will feel that even the admission process for an ISB is not linear. It's full of ups and downs. It's not like one exam where you give the exam, you get the scores, and you're done. So there will be days when you will feel extremely low. There will be days when you feel like, do I even want to do this? That's why what I would recommend to everyone is, and even what I did was, I spent a lot of time introspecting and really getting the true answers to why I want to do this. There is an interview answer, you can prepare it separately, great, but you should know yourself why you want to do an MBA, because people will come and question you. People will come and tell you that, why are you doing this? You have a well settled job. You're leaving that job for 1 year, and there is uncertainty, market is not great. You would be spending more than 40 lakhs for your education. There's no guarantee that you get a great job. You might end up joining a firm which pays you less than what you're currently earning. All of these are possibilities. So people will come and tell you that, but what I did was basically did not listen to any of that. I and the best way to do that is just keep doing something incrementally every single day. That's what I did. Even GMAT, I felt that initially my scores were very, very low. I could not do good in verbal. But what I did was just keep solving one passage every single day. So the power of incrementality helped me a lot. And I was preparing only for ISB, and I had a lot of time. So there were days when I had really nothing much to do. All I could do was just wait for the result or something. So those also becomes very low time for you. But I think if you take it in a positive way, even the admission process teaches you a lot. Before you get in, you have already known yourself better. You have better reasoning skills. So I just took it in that way.
Yeah, that's really great to know. So I'm sure a lot of students will get inspiration from your journey. Thank you so much for joining us today, for giving us your time. Any final words that you would want to share to students who are preparing?
Sure, sure. So first of all, thanks a lot for having me here. I was very happy sharing this over, because people keep coming texting me on LinkedIn as well. Same question: how should we prepare for GMAT, MBA, ISB? And I try to answer these things to them as well. So closing word, I would just want to say to those who are preparing right now, and even to those who have not yet decided to prepare right now. By the way, it's just May. You still have time. You can still prepare, give your GMAT, give your essays. I know friends currently in my current cohort who decided very, very late, maybe a couple of months before the deadline. They could still make it. So don't self-reject yourself. If you have doubts, if you feel that I cannot get into ISB, don't self-reject yourself. First, answer the question: do you want to get in or not? If you know you want to get in, then give an honest try. Because again, ISB is one of those schools where it's not a linear process to get in. It's not that you have to get a 760 GMAT to get in. You can balance it with other ways. If you have a good story to tell, probably the school is going to listen to it.
That's so great to know. So thank you so much again for joining us. Have a great day ahead, Vishal. Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot, Takya.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.